starting to have a sense of mission about the whole country.
One, two, three.
Oh, very nice. Good to meet you.
This is really exciting. Thank you for being here.
Oh, my
And thank you for being here.
No, thank you. I mean,
Wow. Excited.
Hi. Welcome. And there's something about tonight, I don't get nervous anymore, and there's something about tonight I just feel so honored to be here and so excited. You will regret it if you can't tell your children and grandchildren that you got to be in a room with Dr. Willie Parker. I think that this book and this book tour and this moment and this event and this human being have profound historical merit. I'm going to introduce your first speaker. Lara Davis is an artist, racial equity consultant, and arts administrator with the City of Seattle Office of Arts and Culture.
Wow, oh my goodness. I want to say a quick thank you to Shout Your Abortion for inviting me to be here this evening. Yeah. I first became aware of the work of Dr. Parker through Don Porter's incredible film, Trapped. Have folks seen the documentary Trapped? The film focuses on doctors and clinics fighting TRAP laws, which stands for Targeted Regulation of Abortion Providers. These are anti-choice laws that have placed harmful and restrictive regulations on abortion clinics and essentially are trying to keep women and those seeking timely, safe, and readily available access to abortion care. They're trying to make sure that that doesn't happen. Fuck them. We won't let that happen. That's right. When we hear from voices like Dr. Parker and Loretta Ross and Surge's community, it's a recentering of those who have been marginalized and a reframing of the narrative. I would like to give a shout out to the local and regional organizing efforts led by and for communities of color that in their very essence move the needle on liberation for each and every one of us. I'd like to thank Dr. Parker, who I just had the honor of meeting this evening. His deep, abiding love and dedication, I believe, are profound gifts to this struggle for liberation. He is a true comrade, and I'm deeply grateful for him and his work. I would like to introduce Amelia Bono. Amelia is the founding director of Shout Your Abortion, a movement dedicated to broadening the existing cultural discourse around abortion. Join me in welcoming Amelia to the stage.
what's up, y'all? So before I talk about Dr. Parker, Dr. Parker is not the only abortion care provider in this room tonight. I was realizing that we were going to have 600 people in seats and we were going to have all of these providers here. I was realizing that so many of us have had abortions and the people that gave us our abortions might be here. Anybody who's willing in this room who works in abortion care, I want you to stand up. And for the rest of the crowd, I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to say thank you. And I want everybody who's had an abortion to say that shit louder, okay? So anybody who's willing in this room to stand up who works in abortion care, we got some people here, okay? Yeah. Okay, are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Thank you. You guys, Dr. Willie Parker is not a hero. I know this because it's literally the first thing I ever heard him say. The first words I heard come out of his mouth were these. When I look out into this room, I see what I conclude to be a room full of maladjusted, nonconformist people. And that makes me very happy. Somebody once said that we criticize our living nonconformists and we praise our dead heroes. Following from that logic, I am not a hero. I'm simply someone who has chosen to be maladjusted to the norms in our society which devalue women, the norms which take rights away from women and give them to the fetuses that they carry, just as I have chosen to be non-compliant with the systems that execute the babies of black women in our streets, babies like Michael Brown, Trayvon Martin, and Tamir Rice. I could name many others, but you probably wouldn't recognize their names. I watched Dr. Parker give this speech about 6 months after Shout Your Abortion had exploded into existence. And SYA happened because people are ready to begin actually telling the truth about our lives and defining our experiences on our own terms. Instead of silently conceding to a lie invented by rich old white men that says that we are sorry, we are ashamed, we fucked up. Sorry, Dr. Parker. You know, it was instantly crystal clear that people were ready to talk about abortion in a different way. And it's hard to blame people for having a knee-jerk, negative feeling about abortion if they've been steeped in anti-choice propaganda and rhetoric their entire lives, and they're under the impression that they don't know anybody who's had an abortion, just like they don't know anybody who's gay. They don't hear politicians dehumanizing their sisters and their bosses and their friends and their wives, because the anti-choice movement has just created a culture of silence that is completely encompassing. And that's how they've done it. That's how the GOP has managed to achieve the outrageous political feat of legislating this issue in a way that is so profoundly out of touch with people's actual lives. Their ability to continue to erase abortion access hinges on the expectation of our silence. And every single one of our voices is a light that diminishes their ability to suppress the truth. Yeah. And leading us into the future is Dr. Willie Parker, and his voice is as bright and as singular as the sun. The silencing of women and people who have abortions and the silencing and violent suppression of providers are two halves of the same strategy. Help me welcome Dr. Willie Parker.
On November 9th, like most of you, I woke up expecting a different political outcome. And when I realized that the election had gone the way that it did, the Christian part of my brain said, like Job, that which I feared greatly has come upon me. But the Amy Winehouse part of my brain went with an opening line from one of her songs, "What kind of fuckery is this?" There's a difference between impolite language and obscenity. Obscenity is when you kick people out of the country simply because they're brown and they speak a different language. Obscenity is when you want to take very much deserved and needed health care from people. Obscenity is when you want to control the lives of women by taking away their right to be self-determined about their bodies. What I do want to do is read from my book, Life's Work, A Moral Argument for Choice, and I picked my favorite chapter in the book to read. I was trying to make sense of the fact that someone would take the notion to say that black women are under assault, killing their babies because of a conspiracy theory, by saying that Planned Parenthood has hatched a plot to kill black women and black babies and to call it black genocide. What didn't make sense about that was that you would create policies that would force women to continue pregnancies and then deny them the very resources to raise those babies with a modicum of dignity. The chapter is called Black Genocide and the White Majority. It's chapter 9. Nothing enrages me more than the anti's most recent strategic gambit, the Black Genocide movement. As an African-American abortion provider who grew up in poverty, I take this accusation that I am complicit in this white plot very personally. In 2009, a white pro-life filmmaker named Mark Crutcher produced a documentary-style propaganda piece called Ma'afa 21, which equates abortion by black women to slavery and the eugenic experiments of the first half of the 20th century. Positioned as a civil rights film, it circulated widely amongst various African American groups. After it came out, I read an interview with a young, well-educated student at Morris Brown College who said that, having seen the movie, she now understood that there was a conspiracy to kill black people, implying that she'd factor that line of reasoning into her decision-making process should she ever find herself contemplating an abortion. This young woman was on track to realize her hopes and dreams, and it anguished me deeply that based on these lies, she was willing to go off track and to risk poverty for herself as well as for a prospective child, which was precisely what the white purveyors of these lies hoped that she would do. The truth, I'm convinced, is that the people behind the Black genocide movement, like Priests for Life and Like Dynamics, do not care about black babies or black women. They are often the same people who want to do away with public housing and who won't support state-sponsored child care. Theirs is a feigned concern. They are using women of color as pawns in a much bigger game. Their goal, and I'm preaching now and I can't help it, is not actually to curtail abortion services for poor women and women of color. It is to limit access to abortion for all women, including and especially white women. Because the thing all too many white anti-abortion activists really want, which they can't say out loud, is for white women to have more babies in order to push back against the browning of America. For the white racist legislators in red states, nothing is more threatening than a majority brown country. It strips them of their historic power. The white people who are still in charge believe that if their women don't start having lots of babies, they, the white patriarchs, are going to become obsolete. In his 1905 speech on American motherhood, Theodore Roosevelt encouraged white women to do their duty and to have at least two children or else contemplate race suicide. The way I see it, the attack on abortion rights is nothing less than an effort to put all women back in their place. Thank you.
Dr. Parker, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to introduce our final guest, who needs no introduction. She's Martha Plimpton. We know, right? She asked me not to mention that she's appeared in over 35 films, dozens of television programs. She helped found A is For, an advocacy organization dedicated to defending abortion rights. She's lobbied Congress on behalf of Planned Parenthood, and she is going to be in conversation with Dr. Parker for the rest of the night. So welcome Martha Plimpton and Dr. Parker back to the stage.
Well, what's your better side, Dr. Parker?
Oh, whichever side's next to you.
Okay, I brought my wine. This is exciting for me on so many levels, for so many reasons. Number one, I'm here getting to talk with Dr. Parker, whom I've met a few times, and is, of course, one of my heroes and one of my favorite people, and now one of my favorite writers, by the way. But also because I'm here in Seattle with you. I've got a lot of family here, some of whom are here in the audience tonight. I also had my first abortion at the Seattle Planned Parenthood. Yay! I said first, I don't want you guys to feel insecure. It was my best one. Tell us a little bit about your spiritual life as a young person, because it didn't seem to stifle your curiosity. It seemed to be part of your development as a curious person.
So I grew up in Birmingham, grew up in the church, the Black Baptist Church. When I came to my own religious conversion experience, it predated the whole pro-life, pro-choice narrative, which did majority. But what I did observe is that there were gender inequalities in how sexuality was dealt with, because the young women in my church, if they became pregnant, they were sat down out of activities, and then they were required to give birth and then come back and apologize to the church to be restored in their relationship. But I never saw a young man who had impregnated a woman be sat down and have to do the same, right? as a traditional thinking Christian, the default, because people began to say abortion is murder, and I hadn't reconciled those, when I had to then think about what traditional Christianity said about abortion and then what my responsibilities were, I had to figure out a way, to your point, to reconcile. So it was a journey. It wasn't the dramatic narrative, I was an anti-abortion person, then I flipped. That's sexier, but that wasn't my story.
So there you are in Hawaii. After your residency, you're very successful, and you're working at the University of Hawaii at a faculty appointment there. You're also continuing to do work by giving service at an outpatient clinic. And it's at that outpatient clinic you have an experience with a doctor, Dr. Sweet. An experience you have in observing this doctor's behavior kind of flips a switch. Can you describe what happened there?
So Dr. Sweet became the clinic administrator. This is around 2002. W. Bush is president. They're working on the partial birth abortion ban. They've imposed the international gag order. They're contemplating a domestic gag order. He thought that the clinic funding was at risk, or at least that was his rationale. But at any rate, as a fundamentalist Christian who embraced the notion that abortion is murder, he took the initiative as the administrator to push abortion services out of the care. It had been part of the care since 1970. This was the first time where I was working in a situation where the capacity to provide the care was there. I was responsible for at least steering patients towards that care, and that was being taken away. What do you do when you're witnessing injustice? It was on that day when I was told that we didn't have any other recourse but to honor his wishes that I was en route home, and I listened to the sermon by Dr. King. Dr. King had aspirations to become a physician and ended up as a minister. I spent time as a lay minister and was a boy preacher, but ended up as a physician. Both of us had to reconcile the notion of science and religion. And so Dr. King made a statement that really broke down that false barrier and allowed me to integrate my spiritual identity and my chosen craft and my intellect as a scientist, where he says that science gives mankind knowledge, which is power. Religion gives mankind wisdom, which is control. The two are not enemies. What I had to do was reconcile my chosen craft and my calling to social justice and compassion and humanity. And for me, humane, compassionate response to the needs of women forced me to finally conclude that I was never going to be more of a Christian than I was a human being. Right?
I'd like you to speak a little bit about the persistence of this particular type of prejudice, particularly among Christians in this country, that women are fundamentally incapable of understanding what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, right. Well, there's the notion that women are incapable of handling the complexity of the decision making about whether or not to become a mother. That a woman who rejects the primacy of motherhood in her life has to be mentally unstable, that she has to be resistant to the natural order of things, facilitates the patriarchal justification for denying women the right to make decisions about a biologic process going on in their bodies. And so I start with the notion that men and women are both human beings, and human agency belongs to each person. And so any religious justification or understanding that does not hold men and women morally equal and morally able to make decisions for their lives is not one that I can abide by. Which is to say, as a man, I will not participate in a patriarchal system that says that women are not capable of making decisions about their lives. I will not participate, I will not comply with a system that will dethrone a woman in her life and make her less important than the pregnancy that she's carrying. The religious understanding that a woman was created to be a helpmate to a man, that women come from men, that the man is the head of the house, in various ways in which women are forced into a subordinate role, doesn't square with any understanding of God that I have or that I would embrace. When I made the decision to help women, I'm less concerned about what happens to me for trying to help. I'm more concerned about what happens to women if no one tries to help them. That's my trajectory. I don't worry about the critics. I don't worry about the people who are angry. I focus on the women, and if women can muster the courage to overcome all the hurdles and the barriers that we're putting in their way, I just want to make sure that there's somebody there to meet them.
Thank you very much. They're all standing up.
Martha Plimpton and Willie Parker, everybody. There is one question for me specifically that says, what is the future of the SYA movement? What's the plan? Go to shoutyourabortion.com and sign up for our email list, and you're going to hear all about it. Also, our website is awesome, and you can upload your abortion story in all sorts of formats. Thank you all so much for being here. Oh my God. Yes. Have a great night.
Get your book signed, go out this way.
Hello. Hi. Michelle.
Yes.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for speaking and writing this wonderful book.
My pleasure. You live here in Seattle?
Yeah, I'm here in Seattle. I work at the Planned Parenthood up the road.
Oh, thank you for your work. Where did you train?
USC.
Okay.
But then I was in the Navy for 4 years
Okay.
where I wasn't able to provide abortion care. And now that I'm out, I'm trying to get back into being a provider.
Wonderful. I'm going to write my email. I'm going to leave someone to write my email and email me. Be in touch so we can figure out how things can work out.
Christina Jakey. Nice to meet you. Thank you.
It's a great book.
Thank you, sir.
All the best. Anything you need help with.
My mother is here, and she has to go home and rest. Dr. Parker. Thank you, Dr. Parker.
You're done good.
You're welcome, Mom. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all of you.
It was intimidating for everyone.